Hey Josh, this is Jackie from the New Media Writing Studio, and I want to say thank you for giving me the privilege of looking over your good work. Um, it's hard to believe you're a high school student. We'd love to have you here at TCU because your writing is really, really stellar. So great job, and I'll jump right in. Um, what I appreciate most about you is that you have a lot of natural voice as a writer, and what I look for as a college writing instructor is that willingness to play with that voice and to take creative risks in your writing. And I see you doing that in some really cool places when you're playing with similes and whatnot. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the really, really good formatting too, because I can see you were diligent in formatting the works cited and throughout the piece. Um, Overall, I just thought it was really phenomenal. So rest assured that all the feedback I'm giving you is coming from a place of understanding that, if I had you in class, I'm sure you're a very aware, very cognizant writer who respects the art. So, in looking at your paper, starting at the top, again, formatting looks great. I was really taken aback by the title. I think that's neat what you did there. One thing that we might consider improving upon for future papers is just consistency. And I sense that you were kind of feeling this out as a writer throughout, but like with that title where you have what am I, like ambient intelligence, so smart of you, so funny. I see later in the paper though that you are both using the am I expression and the ambient intelligence expression spelled out. So what this makes me wonder, and what I often see, is you want to sound more formal in certain places, so you feel the need to spell out ambient intelligence, and that's just one example of how you might consider consistency. So if you want to go ahead and establish AMI as a term, you can certainly do that. You have the ethos and the authority to do that as a writer and an expert on this subject. In a few other places, I saw some opportunities for consistency. Perhaps just, if you're going to say technology, being more formal and saying technology throughout. There's just one little mention of tech. You use people's last names really well, but in a few places, kind of upping the number of times you use the last name, like with Porteski. Let's see, I'm just looking at your paper right now. And I think that might be it in terms of consistency. I mean, really, you have a good grasp on this. The other thing to perhaps consider is the page numbers, and some of this is going to be, so this is goal number 2 in a sense. Some of this is because, I'm not your teacher, I haven't seen the assignment sheet, but I was wondering, because you seem to be making an argument, I was wondering about the thesis statement. If there was a thesis, I see you kind of arriving at your own thesis by about paragraph 4, I believe, but I was wondering, what your argument is and if we could set it out more clearly in the beginning, because I also notice this idea of, am I dystopian in nature about midway through the piece, and then it comes through again at the end, and that had me thinking, well, it set out to be sort of a glorious thing in that nice narrative you set up in the beginning. So maybe just thinking about foreshadowing that a little bit, setting it up earlier on, putting that question that can really burn in someone's mind of, this all sounds well and good, but very early, let's scare them a little. Let's have a scare tactic in there to kind of get people thinking and to foreshadow what you're going to discuss later, which is the ethical problem. You can see my comments on the ethical problem. And if you want to call it that, might help in building your thesis statement too. But then my last comment for you, really, of the 3 major ones I wanted to touch on is the citation of sources. So you do a brilliant job. You have a lot of sources. You handle a lot of sources really well in keeping them straight. But I did notice that there were page numbers missing in a few places where you have books and articles citing. So I hope, for your sake, that you have those page numbers somewhere. If not, I hope it's easy to go find them. But one thing, especially in college level writing, that you'll want to be aware of is having those page numbers, because your professors like myself, may very well geek out on your topic and want to know exactly, where you got that citation so they can read that point for themselves somewhere. So I thank you for your otherwise great handle on sources of, but that's just one thing to be mindful of. I'm also aware that perhaps that wasn't required by Coach Ryan, who I think is your professor. So, all in all, you did a solid job. I applaud your effort on this. I wasn't expecting someone so adept at writing, but this will serve you well in college. You did a great job. I've given you 3 things to consider working on. I think the most important one, if you really want to zone in on one for right now, probably the sources, because that's the most realistic one to start with. It's an easier fix, right? It can be more of a quick win to figure out, and just being aware of that. And then if you want to move through some of the wordplay and the connecting of ideas I touched on, that might be a good second path if you're feeling up for it, have that second win. But again, thank you for your work and bravo.